Hey everybody, it's Derek here. We're going to be taking a look at the news from the 15th to the 21st of November 2021. So the biggest news story out this week, on Tuesday, the Wall Street Journal published a report on Activision CEO Big Bobby Kotick, and apparently he knew all about all of these sexual misconduct allegations and potentially was involved in some of them as well. So yeah, that's not great. So this is an archive of the report itself. The Wall Street Journal is a paywalled paper, I guess. But there's a link to an archive here if you want to check out the full report itself. It's fairly lengthy. I'll go through a couple of the things. So, opening up here, it kind of starts off with an email going back to 2018, where a former employee of Sledgehammer Games, their lawyer sent an email to Bobby Kotick that their client had been raped in 2016 and 2017 by their male supervisor, and she had been pressured to consume too much alcohol at an office event. The female employee reported the incident to Sledgehammer's HR, but nothing happened. And then they basically threatened a lawsuit against the company after that. Activision reached an out-of-court settlement after the email was sent, and Mr. Kotick did not inform the company's board of directors, which is as much as the other allegation should be more of an issue. The fact that he didn't tell the board of directors about this is probably what will cause the biggest stink for him. It's why the Securities and Exchange Commission is also investigating Activision at the moment. Because of that, they are legally obligated to inform the board of directors about these kind of things and shareholders about these kind of things. And the fact that they also didn't inform them about the EEOC investigation, that they didn't inform them about the California lawsuit that had come out. The time the board actually learned about that was when it was published, like the same time everybody else did. Mr. Kotick has told directors and other executives he wasn't aware of many of the allegations of misconduct, which this email and a couple of other stories in this report would suggest that's a big lie. All of the report itself has a bunch of documents, memos, emails, regulatory requests, and interviews of former employees. All suggest that he very much did know about all of these allegations. He did not inform the board of directors even after regulators began investigating. When people were let go from the company, co-workers were asked to remain silent about the exact reasons why. Great. So this report then brings into light the Securities and Exchange Commission investigation, the EEOC investigation, the California investigation, and a bunch of other stuff. So in response specifically to the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing's lawsuit about the sexual harassment, pay discrimination, retaliation, and the general frat boy culture stuff going on in Activision, Bobby drafted an email that he had another executive send to employees under her name. So you may recall when the initial lawsuit came out, Frances Townsend, who had just been hired by Activision, released an email that was basically saying this is a distorted and untrue picture of our company, yada yada yada, corporate bullshit. And it was sent from her email address, which would suggest she wrote it, right? And she sent it out and so on. But no, that was Bobby. Bobby wrote that email, to which he then later said that it was tone deaf, the email that he wrote himself, and fobbed off to a female underling so he could avoid the blowback from it. Yeah, Bobby, that's not a good look for you, considering what you're trying to do with the company. The board of directors was blindsided by the California lawsuit. As we said before, this was the first time they had heard about it, and they were supposed to be informed about these kind of things. Whether it's made public or not, I don't think they're legally obligated to do that, but they are required to actually tell the board at the very least, and shareholders as well, I think. Bobby, his response: I am very committed to making sure we have the most welcoming and most inclusive workplace in the industry. No, you're not. You're very much not. You're committed to making money and keeping yourself isolated from all of these things. These 3 paragraphs are kind of just going over Bobby as if people didn't know who he was, which I think this audience already knows. He's the CEO of Activision, makes way too much money for doing very little, and as it stands out, being very much the wrong person for the job. Since the California lawsuit, Activision has received more than 500 reports from current and former employees alleging harassment, assault, bullying, pay disparities, and so on. Basically all the things that the California lawsuit alleges. Activision are implementing a zero tolerance harassment policy on. So when the California lawsuit came to light, that was one of the things that they were saying, we are going to implement a zero tolerance harassment policy. The question, of course, is, does that apply to Bobby? And as we'll find out later, it doesn't, basically. In August, Activision named a longtime employee, Jennifer O'Neill, to be Blizzard's co-head after Jay Allenbach stepped down. And she was co-head of Blizzard with Mikey Barra for like a month, maybe? Probably. I think it was just about a month. And then we had a news story on this show, series, video, thing, whatever. I should probably figure out what I want to call this anyway. Where she stepped down from that position. She said in an email that she was stepping back, and she's like, it was a very guarded, very carefully worded public email to be like, I'm stepping back for what's best for me, and yada yada. She was very careful not to say anything particularly bad about Activision or anything like that, but a email that she sent to Activision's legal team, she professed a lack of faith in Activision's leadership to turn the culture around, saying it was clear that the company would never prioritize our people the right way. She said she had been sexually harassed earlier in her career at Activision and that she was paid less than her male counterpart at the helm of Blizzard. Now remember, the whole reason that they were given this position was because the California lawsuit alleged, one, sexual harassment and frat boy culture, but also pay discrimination. And they decided that on the foot of that, to replace the former president, that they would also continue the pay disparity thing. You absolute fucking idiots. Even after that, when she tendered her resignation or intimated that she was going to resign, the company, only then did they decide that, okay, we'll pay you the same we pay the other guy. Only then did they decide to do it. Not before that. No one recognized that this might have been a mistake. Not even from a, you should pay people the same for doing literally the exact same job. They were co-head, right? That means literally you have the same job. Not even from the ethical standpoint that maybe you should pay people the same thing for doing the exact same job. But they waited until it was pointed out that... No, what was I trying to say? Not even from like the ethical standpoint that yes, you should absolutely pay people the same amount of money for doing the exact same, literally the exact same job, the exact same title and so on, but just from a fucking PR optics thing. You are just been hit with this lawsuit and you decide to keep going with this. You fucking idiots. There's a brief article here where Miss O'Neill describes a party that Activision had for one of the development studios, and it's kind of what you would have expected from the turn of 2000s developers. Not to necessarily single out, obviously Activision are being singled out for this, but a lot of developers were doing this shit, which it was pretty much like a college party. Like, it would be held in a stripper club. DJs encourage female attendees to drink more so the men would have a better time. That is bad, and it certainly looks bad on Activision, but to be fair, not that I particularly want to be fair, but to clear it up, a lot of development studios were doing that kind of shit and still are doing that kind of shit. So Activision are by no means an outlier in this kind of thing. For Bobby's part, he says he doesn't remember attending such a party, which of course he's going to say that. These couple of articles here are again going back to Bobby's starting point and how he got the position and so on. Is largely only relevant for, like, the Wall Street Journal obviously isn't a video game outlet necessarily, so a bit of background story is probably required here. But again, for our current audience, I would think that's not necessary. You all know who Bobby is, I think, at this point. And then there are two. These are two fairly old emails and harassment claims. So this is going back to 2017. Dan Bunting, co-head of Activision's Treyarch studio, was accused by a female employee of sexually harassing her in 2017 after a night of drinking, according to people familiar with the incident. Activision's Human Resources Department and other supervisors launched an internal investigation in 2019, 2 years later, and recommended that he be fired. So this is HR doing their internal investigation, whatever that's required. 2 years later, fine. They eventually got around to it. The 2-year gap is kind of inexcusable, but I suppose we don't know when exactly we don't know when they went to HR, so maybe it might have been different. I don't know. The point is, they said he should be fired. And Bobby said, nah. No, let's keep him. Remember, Treyarch at this point were shilling out lots of Call of Duty, like the really popular ones. So Bobby was like, I'm not fucking with that. I want my money. So yeah, he was not fired. He was let go. Mr. Bunting, who led Treyarch through the production of several successful Call of Duty games, was instead given counseling and allowed to remain at the company. Activision then had an outside investigation conducted in 2020, and the company elected not to terminate Mr. Bunting after that either, but instead to impose other disciplinary measures. What's that? It could be anything. Slap on the wrist, basically. However, Dan Bunting left the company after the Journal asked about the incident, so he's only just left, basically. Going back to 2000s, this is a harassment claim, allegation, going all the way back to 2017. He has only just left, and he wasn't fired. He left voluntarily. Not a good look. Not a good look. Mr. Kotick did not inform the board about an email accusing Sledgehammer Games supervisor of, again, rape. Activision did take action. The accuser's lawyer identified the supervisor as Javier Panameno, and he had also had sexually harassed a second woman at the studio. The employee who accused him of the assaults reported the second incident in 2017 to the police. No charges were brought. Big fucking shock there. Activision, to be fair to them, in this case, they did actually fire him after 2 months of that investigation. However, it is pointed out that Mr. Panameno's recollection of the second encounter conflicted with the employee's report to the police. Yeah, conflicted. Another way to say that is lied. Female employee hadn't reported either incident to the company. This is the HR representative saying that the female employee hadn't reported either incident to the company. However, the employee says that they told Sledgehammer Human Resources about both incidents. So somebody is lying. I wonder which. Mr. Panameno did not respond to request, but a spokesman for a subsequent employer, Zynga, wow, he went from Activision to Zynga. Anyway, they said they'd launched an internal investigation and he subsequently resigned from that position. So yeah, you don't exactly resign if there isn't a problem. More emails from lawyers sent to Mr. Kotick, so he is aware of this. Said another Sledgehammer employee, Edward Rorick, had been accused of sexual harassment. Female employee Ashley Mark said in an interview that she complained to supervisors and human resources about harassment, including at a company party in which there was heavy drinking. This is a recurring theme. Mr. Rory confirmed the investigation for harassment incident and said it was unclear what exactly did and did not happen since a lot of alcohol was involved. Fuck you. It was your choice to get that fucking drunk. And how was he punished? He was given 2-week paid leave, so a holiday, and allowed to remain at the company in a different position. It's not clear if he was fucking promoted. Human Resources letter sent to him, which was shared by Mr. Rorick, Activision asked that he keep this matter confidential. So this is the company just, tell you what, here's 2 weeks paid holiday, we'll probably give you a promotion, and just don't tell anybody this happened. Mr. Rorick, German citizen, was then let go in 2018 after he had an argument with his manager about his green card. So yeah, some bullshit going on there. These next few paragraphs are kind of recapping the EEOC and the California lawsuit and what is entailed in them. Again, we have discussed them previously, and I think at this point you're well aware of it, and if you're not, just go back a couple of videos. Mr. Kotick himself has been accused by several women of mistreatment both inside and outside the workplace, and he has settled most of these complaints quickly and quietly. Yeah, how about that zero tolerance policy? How's that going for you? Mr. Kotick in 2006 threatened in a voicemail to have his assistant killed. One of his assistants complained that he had harassed her, and Mr. Kotick threatened her in a voicemail to have her killed. Wow. He settled the matter out of court. Of course he did. Mr. Kotick quickly apologized. Yeah, whatever. You fucking did it. And you just settled it. You should have fucking stepped down. Anyway. 2007, he was sued by a flight attendant on a private jet he co-owned. The flight attendant claimed the plane's pilot had sexually harassed her, and she complained to the other owner. Mr. Kotick then fired her. As part of the arbitration, he was quoted as saying, "I'm going to destroy you." A spokesman for Mr. Kotick denies that he said that, but there you go. Sworn testimony says that he did say that. In 2008, they settled by paying the attendant $200,000, according to the arbitrator's decision. Spokesman for Mr. Kotick said he couldn't have fired her in retaliation for complaining because she never complained directly to him. It's a bit of a technicality. She complained to the other owner, and the other owner probably told you about it, and then you fired her. Like, having a middleman here doesn't really absolve you, and the fact that they had to pay out would suggest that you weren't absolved of it. In 2020, 30 female employees who worked in Activision's esports division wrote an email to their unit's leaders saying that female employees had been subjected to unwanted touching, demeaning comments, exclusion from important meetings, and unsolicited comments on their appearance. Bobby was very much aware of this email. Activision spokesman said that after the meetings with representatives of the group, the company took steps such as providing diversity and inclusion training to the esports leadership team. Nobody got let go, nobody got fired, nobody got anything, just diversity training. For fuck's sake. Former Blizzard technology chief Ben Kilgore faced multiple allegations of sexual harassment over the course of several years, according to people familiar with the matter. During a company investigation, Mr. Kilgore lied about whether he had a relationship with a lower-level employee. He was then fired in 2018, approved by Bobby. So he can do it. He can fire people. He's just, for some reason, stepping in to not do it. Off of that firing of Kilgore, Michael Morhaime, former head of Blizzard, on his outing said he thanked Mr. Kilgore for his many contributions over the last 4.5 years. So this is reminding of earlier in the article that co-workers and such were told to keep quiet about these kind of things, and they were given like glorifying reviews and exposure on their subsequently leaving the company. They were fired, but thanks for your many contributions. Anyway, in their 2020 letter, the female esports employees, remember the 30 who were complaining about it, the feeling of defeat when an abuser exits the company with positive public farewells. So yeah, the upper management are most assuredly not on their side for these kind of things. Mr. Kotick approves most internal company-wide emails, so this is about the email from Frances Townsend, who turns out was actually not from Frances Townsend, it was from Bobby, and he decided to fob it off to a female underling. He directed the email to be sent to employees by Frances Townsend. Activision employees criticized the statement, and Bobby came back to basically say, yeah, that was tone deaf, publicly calling the earlier statement sent by Miss Townsend, who, remember, that was his email, he drafted it. But he claimed it was tone deaf. We will do everything possible to make sure that together, yeah, blah. Corporate shit. So, lots of damning shit there. There is a link to this, the archive of this article, because again, Wall Street Journal is paywalled. So, if you want to, the link is in the description. But as you might imagine, shit ton of fallout from this report. So, first of all, 150 Activision Blizzard staff stage walkout following bombshell report. So, Activision Blizzard staged a new walkout. Around 150 employees gathered outside the Blizzard campus. A Better ABK group which asked workers to down tools. After a call from the Better ABK group who asked workers to down tools. Smaller protests were held elsewhere, and then others joined in remotely, ceasing to work from home, I guess. A Better ABK, who are the union, what's the word? It's like they want a union, but they're not actually a union. I had a word for it before, I've forgotten what I was using for it. Yeah, I've forgotten. Anyway, their statement on the article or on the report: we have instituted our own zero tolerance policy. We will not be silenced until Bobby Kotick has been replaced as CEO and continue to hold our original demand for third-party review by an employee-chosen source. We are staging a walkout today. We welcome you to join us. This was then responded to by Activision and the Activision board that the company's board was standing by its CEO and remained confident in him. So despite all of that stuff, they're like, Bobby's doing a great job, he's making us so much money, why would we ever get rid of him? Bobby has made no suggestion of resigning himself, so yeah, he's not going anywhere unless he is pushed out. And I don't have the article for it, but the reason he might be wanting to look to get fired instead of resigning is he gets a pretty big payout if he's fired without cause. So I think he's probably holding on for that. It's like 200 million or something like that. So yeah, he's not gonna step down voluntarily anyway. Group of Activision Blizzard shareholders call for Kotick saga. So it's not just the employees now. The shareholders want him gone too. Shareholders led by the SOC investment group, who you might remember were also the people who were saying Bobby gets paid too much, and also saying Andrew Wilson gets paid too much, and so on. A lot of the big video game publisher CEOs are just paid way too much money. They're those guys. Anyway, they're calling for Bobby to step down, and they're also calling for the retirement of board directors Brian Kelly and Robert Morgado. The reason for that is they have been there a very long time. They've been there with Bobby basically almost from the start. And they pretty much are like, they're the reason he gets to stay there, more or less. They're board directors. They want them to be to step down and to have a more diverse and inclusive people to replace them, or more specifically, that these seats go to an Activision Blizzard employee that is not an executive. Yes, that's a union representative on the board. That's what that is. And yes, do that. Make that happen. Not gonna, but do it. And then continuing, 1,200 Activision Blizzard employees signed petition demanding CEO Bobby Kotick quit. Now, 1,200 out of what is about 10,000 people who work for the company mightn't seem like a lot, like it's 12%. But they are putting their actual name, where they work, their title, and so on. So it's not an anonymous thing. This is like a fully public petition. So that is them putting their job on the line. So in that case, 12% is actually a pretty huge number for that kind of thing. Statement reads, we, the undersigned, no longer have confidence in the leadership of Bobby Kotick as the CEO of Activision Blizzard. The information that has come to light about his behaviors and practices in the running of our companies runs counter to the culture and integrity we require of our leadership and directly conflicts with the initiative started by our peers. We ask that Bobby Kotick remove himself as CEO of Activision Blizzard, that's not going to happen, and that shareholders be allowed to select the new CEO without an input of Bobby, who we are aware owns a substantial portion of the voting rights of the shareholders. Fuck. So basically, fuck off and you don't get to vote on who the next CEO is. Nice. Additionally, ABK Workers Alliance have also made a public petition so that fans or publicly interested parties can sign, and it is much the same. It's much the same statement, although obviously it removes the you work there and such. Disclosure: I have signed it myself. Feel free to do so if you like. The link is in this article here. If you feel like doing that. And then finally, as we were talking about, or not even finally, but as we were talking about, would Bobby be subjected to the new zero tolerance policy? And the answer was no. No, he won't. Some tolerance, at least 1% tolerance policy on harassment. Zero tolerance policy on harassment can't be applied to the company's leader for some reason. For some arbitrary reason, probably. Activision Blizzard held a live stream all-hands meeting after the Wall Street Journal report. So the day afterwards, they had an all-hands meeting. The company's leadership answered pre-screened questions. Yeah, I love them. Love them pre-screened questions. Definitely nothing shady or untoward happening there. One of the questions asked was whether Activision Blizzard's recently introduced zero tolerance policy on harassment would be applied to Bobby, and the answer was no. We don't have evidence of these claims, despite the emails, despite the memos, despite the interviews, despite everything else that the Wall Street Journal has, and the fact that Activision have done pretty much nothing to refute them, just to say no you. That's it. That's the basis of their argument so far. So that they have no evidence is kind of bullshit. But yeah, at least 1% policy, or at least 1% tolerance, not 0%. And then some peers, I guess, how a way to put it. But Jim Ryan, PlayStation, basically say that this is what the fuck are you doing, Bobby? You need to go, like right now. PlayStation boss Jim Ryan sent an email out to PlayStation employees, basically saying that this is not okay. We don't. There's no place for this kind of stuff in the industry. We have reached out to Activision ourselves and to express our deep concern and to ask how they plan to address the claims made in this article, and we do not believe their statements of response properly address the situation. So that's a big partner for Activision. So Activision publish their games, but they have to be hosted on something, right? So they get played on PlayStation consoles, and this is the boss of PlayStation going, what the fuck are you doing, Bobby? And then, not to be outdone, Phil Spencer of Xbox has much the same thing to say. He is disturbed and deeply troubled. This type of behavior has no place in our industry. We are evaluating all aspects of Xbox's relationship with Activision Blizzard and making ongoing proactive adjustments. So yeah, this is again another large platform for Activision going, not sure we want to be anywhere near this at all. We're go away. So that's their two biggest platforms. You could potentially argue PC, but PC is so disseminated that there isn't really a big figurehead you can point at. I guess Steam, I suppose, but I find it unlikely. Like Gabe doesn't do like public press releases and shit, so I don't see that happening. And then Activision don't put their bigger titles out on Nintendo Switch, so I don't see that happening either. So having Phil Spencer and Jim Ryan, despite my dislike of Jim Ryan, he is at least saying the right things here. So yeah, that's some shit, and that this has been ongoing now since the California lawsuit. That Activision situation is just been getting worse and worse and worse, and how Bobby thinks he can stay in this position, how he thinks his position is in any way tenable after this. Like, he's gonna stay there, obviously, because the board are behind him. He makes them a lot of money, and it's gonna cost them too much to get rid of him. Will they wait until the company implodes? Probably, because they can just jump to a new company, unlike the employees who are kind of fucked if it does. Anyway, it's now time to talk about video games, I guess, after all that shit. Anyway. New release this week. So, this is The Ruined King, a League of Legends story. This was kind of surprise launched. This is a turn-based RPG by the people who did Battle Chasers Night War. So same company, same developer. And in general, it looks like it's the same engine as well. It's almost like asset swaps or something like that. But Battle Chasers was a fun game. I really enjoyed it, and the artwork is excellent. And this is kind of more of the same, but with a League of Legends wrapping on it, if you like, instead of a Battle Chasers wrapping. So if you're into the whole League of Legends lore stuff, this might be interesting to you. To be honest, I don't follow League of Legends at all, so I don't know. Like, I do want to play more of like a Battle Chasers thing. So I'll probably give this a look at some point, but I can't get over that every time I see the title, A Ruined King, I keep thinking it's some fucking sex thing. I have to chuckle about it every time. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't look that up. Anyway, also out this week is Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1. This is from the people who made The Sinking City, and they also make all of the Sherlock Holmes games, basically. Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1 is basically Sherlock before he was, like, you know, the world's greatest detective or whatever. This is him starting out, first, like, jobs, first clients, that kind of thing. It is a fairly open, like, detective game, if you like, a puzzling type game, where the island is, like, the island it's set on is fairly open. You can tackle multiple jobs at the same time, and maybe some of them intersect and so on. From what I've seen, gameplay-wise, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty fun. Action-wise, I mean, it's by Frogwares, and Frogwares, technically, sometimes their games can be a little bit iffy, but from what I've seen, it is mostly fine. I don't know. I'll probably check it out just for the kind of puzzling stuff, because this kind of, like, the Sherlock Holmes puzzles are usually a lot more involved and a lot more difficult. They're very little hand holding or anything like that, so they really do tax your brain a bit. So I'd be interested to see how this goes. And then some updates. So again, another kind of shock announcement, although this one wasn't a particularly shocked announcement. This is Multiversus, and this has been leaked a number of times now. This is Warner Brothers Smash Bros clone, basically. So this is the DC characters versus the Lord of the Rings characters versus the Game of Thrones characters versus, you know, Adventure Time, and lots of this Bugs Bunny is in there for some reason, and so on. Don't know how it'll turn out. They certainly have a fairly ridiculous fucking roster. So they definitely have that going for them. Some very recognizable characters are obviously there. Like, just the DC characters themselves will make a huge dent in, like, the more, what am I trying to say? Like, the more mainstream end of things, I suppose. But then you've got, like, Adventure Time, you've got Looney Tunes, you've got Lord of the Rings. Warner Bros. Owns that as well. So there is a suggestion that Gandalf has been seen in some leaks. He's not in this video as far as I know, but he has shown up in some leaks and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of wondering how Superman doesn't just destroy everybody in this fight, but whatever. The only way you ever come back from that is to basically say that Superman wouldn't want to, because he's too nice. And that's the way you come back for it. He pulls all his punches, and, you know, he sells every punch that hits him. Basically, he wants you to feel good about yourself while you're beating him up. That's pretty much the only way you get around Superman not just bodying everybody. But there you go. We'll see how it turns out. There have been a number of Smash Brothers clones from different developers over the years. None of them have ever supplanted Smash Bros. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Also announced was Dragon Ball The Breakers, which is this is a really kind of surprising concept, or not surprising concept necessarily, but I'm surprised that Dragon Ball decided to do it. So this is basically Dragon Ball Dead by Daylight. You have the crazy, super powerful villains of the Dragon Ball series, so like Cell, Frieza, you know, Boo, and that kind of stuff. And then you have the absolute shit tier jobbers of the Dragon Ball universe. Like, the ones with no powers, you know, the ones who get taken out in the very first episode of the season, those kind of characters, who now have to deal with the super powerful guys and, you know, sort of survive and take them down. It's pretty funny that they're using Dragon Ball to do that, I guess, because the villains would be so outlandishly powerful as to be. It's not like a Dead by Daylight thing where it's like a slasher or whatever, and he's technically still human underneath, so it's really just a human you're running away from. But this is very different. This is god level powers that they're having to deal with. I just think it's really funny, but I'd be curious to see how the game works out. If it takes a more action approach, if it goes more the Dead by Daylight's kind of stealthy stuff or that kind of thing. I don't know. It looks funny. I probably won't play it myself because it's a heavily multiplayer kind of thing, but I would be very interested to see like streams and Let's Plays of this kind of thing. I think it'll be hilarious. Just getting absolutely like a nuclear bomb dropped on you all the time. Anyway. And then last thing for updates, Xbox has announced over 70 new backwards compatible games. So this... Well, one, great. That's another 70 games that people who would have had in their library and would potentially not have had access to, now they have access to it again. And even if you didn't have access to them, now you do. So the big list, the full list is here, 70 games. Vast majority of I have zero interest in, but still, they're there. But the more important thing about this story is that, one, this is the end of the backwards compatibility stuff. So basically, as Phil Spencer said as part of this announcement, that we're done. This is the final list. These are the final additions to the backwards compatibility thing. Basically, what's standing in the way now is licensing agreements and orphaned works issues. And if you're not familiar, orphaned works are basically, we don't know who owns it. We just know we don't. So we can't do much about it. So there are a couple of IPs and stuff that where the company has gone bankrupt or has gone insolvent, and now it's not particularly clear who actually owns the IP, so they can't do much about it. And then licensed stuff is just they're not willing to pay for whatever it is, music or the license itself. You know, if it's a Lord of the Rings game or something like that, you know, they're not willing to pay the license for that again. That kind of thing. But yeah, that's again a huge addition to the library for Xbox, and it's great that they can keep doing that and keep adding games to it. I mean, it's not great that they can't do it anymore, and that this is it, that's the end of it. But you know, it's a good step towards game preservation. Okay, it is now time to talk about the worst part of the thing we like. I don't think that's correct either. I really need to write this thing down. Anyway, industry bullshit. GTA, the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, the Travesty, has a Metacritic aggregate score of 0.5. Now, this is a user score. It's not a critical score, but still, 0.5 might be the lowest, I think. It potentially might be. Yeah. Anyway, unhappy GTA fans are review bombing. I don't think they're review bombing. I think they're giving an accurate appraisal of the game. But anyway, review bombing GTA, the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, the Travesty on Metacritic. At the time of writing, it's at 0.5, and that hasn't changed. It's still at 0.5, although for some reason PS5 players are at 1.0. I don't know. Anyway, this could have been gone in dumb stuff as well, I suppose, and actually probably should have. But anyway, that's it. That's the story. People users are not happy and are, you know, voicing their displeasure with how the GTA, the Trilogy, the Terrible, has released. Rockstar, for their part, have apologized for trying to pull a fast one on you, basically. Rockstar is promising updates to fix these issues. Updates are not going to fix this. This is a complete fucking start again. That's what this is. To try to make good on these kind of things, they are bringing back the previously delisted classic versions of the GTA Trilogy on PC via the Rockstar Store, which means it's not coming back to Steam, it's not coming back to GOG, it's not coming back to anywhere else, just Rockstar Store. That's shit. That's really shit, actually. One, you should never have delisted them in the first place, because it goes against game preservation, and two, those are people's purchases. You can't take... Well, I mean, you can still download them, but you get my point. Anyway, the updated versions of these classic games did not launch in a state that meets our standards of quality. Yes, it did. You approved it and launched it yourselves and took money for it. So yes, it did. It just turns out your standards of quality are pretty shit when it comes to this stuff. When it comes to something that isn't GTA Online. Anyway, that's them saying, yeah, we'll totally fix it. We're gonna get right on that, as if a couple of bugs was the issue and not the whole thing needs to be redone completely. It's an absolute train wreck. Former Bungie composer Marty O'Donnell asked people to destroy Destiny music he released without permission. So this is going back quite a while. We had a story about Marty O'Donnell and where he was putting up pieces of music from Destiny and music of the Spheres and some sort of like exploratory stuff before they had actually released the game and so on. He was putting it up on his YouTube channel, he was putting it up on Bandcamp and getting paid for it and so on, but he actually didn't own any of that. Previously, there had been a lawsuit between himself and Bungie to basically say, Marty, stop doing this. You don't own the music. Stop trying to sell it. We own it. Destroy anything that you have, any materials you have, and not just the finished copies, any of the work in progress copies, any of the concept stuff, all of it, gone. Destroy it. You're not meant to have any of it. And basically he had like complied and agreed with all this stuff, and the only thing that was left for him to do was to basically publicly say that he doesn't have ownership of these things, and to like ask that people who do have those kind of those things and who have not gained them legitimately, i.e. paid Bungie for it instead of paying him for it, that they destroy it. And that's not going to happen, but he has completed his legally required thing. So it was a question of whether or not he was going to do it, and he has gotten around to do it. So that's kind of wrapping that up, I suppose. And then this is going back to the new backwards compatible games on Xbox. So Phil Spencer had a bit of an interview, or not a bit of an interview, he had a fairly large interview where he talked about a lot of different things, a lot about the backwards compatibility stuff, what Xbox is doing for its 20th anniversary, some stuff about Halo Infinite and so on. But buried in there was Phil Spencer going, hey, maybe emulation isn't all bad. Maybe we do a bit for games that can't be played properly anymore, that nobody has access to because those platforms are gone and defunct. Maybe we emulate them. Yeah, it's not like they're not stealing because there's no way for them to pay for them. So do some emulation. Yeah, cool. I think we can learn from the history of how we got here through the creative. I love it in movies and TV, and there's positive reasons for gaming to want to follow. That was weird. That's a direct quote as well. Okay. There's some words missing there. My hope, and I think I have to present it that way as of now, is as an industry we'd work on legal emulation that allowed modern hardware to run any, within reason, older executable, allowing someone to play any game. Yes. Please do that. There is no fucking reason why we shouldn't do that. I think what he's trying to say about movie and TV is that we don't have that issue for films and television shows that are like long past, gone for like 20, 30 years or whatever. We don't have that issue where we can't watch them anymore. Like, they get updated, they get ported, if you like, to new platforms, to new mediums and so on. You get moved from, film reel, they ended up on VHS, then they ended up on DVD, then they ended up on Blu-ray, now they're streamable. Like, we keep going with that, and well, at least I can't think of any films that we've just consigned to no one ever gets to see them ever again. That's not a thing. We do that for film, we do it for TV, we do it for music, we do it for so many things, but we don't do it for video games. We don't do it for other software in general, and a lot of that reason is it's really hard. Is the real problem, because video game software requires the hardware that it runs on. Like, it has very specific hardware, particularly exclusive titles. Like a PlayStation 3 exclusive title runs specifically on the really weird PlayStation 3 architecture, and that's difficult to port because it's kind of unique to the PS3. Very few other platforms used Cell, and I think 0 video game platforms did. That kind of parallel architecture is present in some PCs, but even then, it's pretty rare. And PC developers aren't going to develop a game on the off chance this 1% of their audience will have this weird architecture. That's not going to happen. So emulating a PS3 will be tricky. It's not the same as emulating a static medium like film. Like, you can't press a button and change what happens in the film, that kind of thing. It's beginning to end, it's static, that's how it works. You can't do that with a video game because you can just, move the camera around and now suddenly it's a completely different thing. So emulation is extremely difficult, but we are losing a lot of video game culture because of it. We're losing the beginnings of it. You can chart a film and you can chart influences all the way back almost to the start of the medium. You can find that. In video games, that is very difficult to do, particularly if somebody was to take a degree in people can take a degree in film and study it as an artistic medium. You can't really do that with video games because we can't go back that far. Or rather, it is very difficult to go back that far unless they were extremely popular games. And even then, a lot of companies, Nintendo, are doing their best to make that as difficult as possible. So I would applaud Phil for saying this. I just hope he sticks with it. That's all. Okay, well, we'll finish off with some dumb stuff. So we're not done with Activision. Now, I'll just read the headline. Activision took years to fire someone who signed emails 1-800-ALL-COCK. Took years to fire somebody with that email, signing all of his work emails as 1-800-ALL-COCK. Now, they did fire him. I suppose it was supposed to be we've got that to go for us, but what the fuck? This was part of Wall Street Journal. Again, they had a podcast where they put out they talked about like some of the smaller things that didn't make it into the report, and this was one of them. And the rest of this article is pretty fucking damning for other things that have been somewhat talked about already, and they just give a bit more information on other stuff. It doesn't really fit dumb stuff, but this does. This particular part did. One, how did it take you this long to fire this guy? And two, how can you be this fucking stupid and unprofessional that you would sign off your emails like this? What kind of culture at the office would make you think this is okay? You know, this is the kind of thing you're dealing with. Can you imagine in your job and someone signed off a work professional email like that? Anyway. Battlefield 2042, tanks are sitting atop skyscrapers to pummel players as soon as the elevator opens. So these are just some fucking hilarious videos. I'm in the tank, door opens, see ya. This is just goodbye, everybody's dead. And then from the player's perspective, you know, everybody hops in the elevator, we're having a good time, we're trying to talk to each other through the medium of crouching, which of course is how you do it when you don't have voice chat. That's the only way to do it. And then we're ready. We're good to go. Take out the whole fucking team. Brilliant. How do they get a tank all the way up there? Apparently you can call in vehicle drops, which is not new, but you can call in vehicle drops to the top of the building and just camp out. Obviously you're kind of stuck there because if you drive off, you'll explode. And then this other one is to just say that this isn't unique to tanks. Any vehicle can get up on top of the building. And this must have been a what the fuck moment for this guy. Or girl, or whatever. Dog. Hovercraft has somehow managed to get itself up on top of this building, which is pretty fucking incredible. And then, of course, just mows them out of this. Brilliant. I've heard some like not great things about Battlefield 2042, and not that it would be in any way interesting to me, but this kind of shit is always funny. I just find it hilarious. And then again, back to Xbox backwards compatibility. Skate 2, which is a game that a lot of people like. I have no particular interest in skating games in general, but I know Skate as the series is pretty popular with people who like that kind of thing. It was added to backwards compatibility this week as part of the 70 games. That's one of them. And then EA decided to celebrate. So they're celebrating here, right? Celebrate. And then they drop this. We're providing a heads up that on December 10th, we will be returning off the Skate 2 online servers. It's not an easy decision, and that's something we take lightly. Yay, their game is back. Fuck you. No fun for anybody. Wow, we're about to get a whole bunch of new people in. It's gonna resurrect it. Maybe we'll get a Skate 3. Nah, fuck you. Fuck you, go play FIFA and spend more money on it. Oh, that is some shitty practice right there. Anyway, that was the news for 15th to the 21st of November 2021. Obviously, the big Wall Street Journal report is damning, and I want to say shocking, but I'm not. I think anyone who has been following the video game industry for any length of time knows that Activision and Bobby Kotick in particular is, a terrible human being. And this is not in any way a shock that this kind of stuff is happening under his watch, or that he was actually involved in it himself. And we're still dealing more or less with the fallout from it. They'll have the weekend for people to kind of put their plans in motion, and I guess we'll see what happens then. Next week will be interesting to see what happens. I would be curious to see what kind of effect this is actually having on their games and their products and such. Are Activision players aware of what's happening here? Call of Duty players and so on. Is it making any material impact on them? It is, I will say, for me. I was pretty interested in Diablo 2 until all of this stuff came out. I didn't particularly like Activision at all, really. I made a concession for Sekiro, which was a very good game, and I made concessions for Diablo, which is changed because I did not get Diablo 2. I have no particular interest now in Diablo 4 until this kind of stuff is fixed. I'm sure other people feel the same way about Call of Duty and so on. I don't know. It's not clear what the game response is. I know that the public petition they put out has a couple thousand signatures on it, including my own. What will actually come of that, we don't know. It's still like we're still going from the California lawsuit, right, which has been going on for a while now, and all the fallout from that. And now this report is piled on it, so we'll see what turns out. New releases: Sherlock Holmes and The Ruined King. Don't know. It'll probably be a while before I get around to them. I'm probably more interested in Sherlock Holmes than I am in the League of Legends game, just because I don't follow League of Legends, don't really know any of the characters and so on. But to be fair, I didn't follow Battle Chasers either, and I was pretty interested in that game. Or not interested, I enjoyed playing it, so it's just a good chance I'll probably enjoy playing that too. Xbox backward compatibility stuff, good. Phil Spencer's position on legal emulation. I'm not sure you needed to add the legal part. Like, if you're not selling the game and there's no way for people to access it, and there's no question that there's legal or there's no question of illegality, they're not stealing from you because you're not selling it. Anyway, what else was in industry buzz? The music guy, Marty, yeah, I'm not surprised when that happens. And then Rockstar continues to just do the corporate shill stuff. We're totally going to fix this completely broken game. There's no fixing this. Whatever their fixes are going to be, it is not going to change like the character models. It's not going to change the AI upscaling stuff for like text and textures and stuff like that. It's not going to fix that kind of thing, because that's not to be fixed. That was intentional. Those character models are intentional. The decision to use a bot basically to redo all of the text and artwork text, if you like, and put it all in that ridiculous font and so on, that they are intentional. Those aren't bugs. It was intended to look like that, so there's nothing to be fixed basically from that standpoint. And dumb stuff, yeah, like 1-800-ALL-COCK. How could you possibly think that was okay? What kind of environment are they in where that is okay? And, you know, having a tank just parked outside the elevator and blowing people up is brilliant. Anyway, elsewhere on the channel, I'm continuing the Alan Wake playthrough. Again, this is a blind playthrough. I've never played it myself. Part 2 went up a couple of days ago, so Part 3, Part 4 will be out this week, maybe next week. I've also put up a video for Voice of Cards, All Dragon Roars, which is a new JRPG that looks like a card game, but is actually a turn-based JRPG by Yoko Taro, who's the guy behind Nier Automata, Drakengard, that kind of thing, and has phenomenal music. It has really, really good music. Still continuing to work on my Games of May video. I'm much further now in Resident Evil Village, and I'm actually just going to go push ahead and finish it, so I can give a fully rounded idea of what I think of it and that kind of jazz. And then maybe we'll get on to Games of June before the end of the year. And I'm kind of thinking that I might do a Games of July to December and just put it all in one video just so I can catch up, because there are some fucking massive games and I am not going to get around to all of them. I don't know. I might just do a quick fucking 10-second thing on it. Deathloop, yeah, cool, great game, see it. Move on. I haven't played it yet. I don't know if it's a great game. That's just an example. Anyway, that's what's up on the channel. Let me know if you have any suggestions for next games to play, you know, the next Let's Play to do, maybe, or the next one-shot, like Foley Plays for a bit. The Good Life is coming up this week. That'll be the Foley Plays The Good Life for a bit, and then we'll be looking at, I think Metroid Dread will be the next one. I haven't decided yet. It'll be Metroid Dread or it will be Overboard. Both of them are Switch games. Both of them are very, very different, but I guess we'll see which one I get around to or which one I'm interested in taking on as the main game after I have finished Resident Evil Village, because I will need a new game to play. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you thought of this video, and I will see you next time.